Yay, it's Friday, so it's time for another Friday sew. Hi, my name's Claire and this is Stitch Hem Sew. Thank you so much for joining me today for another video. Now today's video is a Friday Sews video, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I've been sewing, my plans and a little bit of life. So if that interests you, please stick around with me today. Now before I get started, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that has watched my last few videos, those of you who've liked and commented, and any new subscribers that I've had. I really do appreciate it. I've had a little flurry of new subscribers, so if you are new to my channel over the last few weeks or new to me today, you're very, very welcome, and I hope you'll come back again. And to all my regular watchers and subscribers, thank you for coming back time and time again. So the last couple of videos I put out, I asked for some advice in relation to a few things, so thank you so much if you took the time to comment. I really do appreciate it, and it's really helpful, so thank you so much for that. So it's been half term this week, so I've managed to squeeze in a little bit of more sewing than perhaps I do in some weeks. Not quite sure really, but yeah, I've managed to fit in some sewing, and we've had a lovely week with the children, and sort of going out for day trips and that sort of thing, and some sort of chilling out as well, and they've had some friends round and things like that. So it's been a really lovely week. Those of you who've watched my last couple of videos will know that I had a bit of a head injury that resulted in 2 black eyes. Those have now fully healed, no visible bruising anymore, I'm glad to say. So yeah, back to just normal makeup now, which I'm quite pleased about, because yeah, I had found that I wasn't particularly skilled in covering up 2 very dark black eyes. As they became a bit lighter, I got a bit better at it. They weren't so dark to cover, and thankfully now they've gone, so that is absolutely fantastic. So as I say, I have managed to fit in a bit of sewing over the last week, and I've made 2 items. The first item was the Tilly and the Buttons Lyra shirt dress. Now this is a massively popular pattern in the sewing community, so I am rather late to the party. I'd had the pattern for a while, hadn't, for one reason or another, hadn't managed to sew it up, but I have now, and I have got it on now. I will also pop some pictures in of me wearing it, and I think I've got a little bit of footage as well to show me wearing the garment. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out actually, and I'll sort of talk through a couple of things that I did to make the pattern work for me. So I am about 5'8", 5'9", and so I always have to lengthen. Well, I say always, 9 times out of 10 I have to lengthen patterns. So, and I certainly did with this one. I always have to with Tilly's Buttons. I find that the bodice length always comes up a little bit short on me, and I generally want a little bit more length in the skirt portions, and also lengthening the sleeves. So the first thing I did was to lengthen the bodice by 1.5 inches, and I decided to lengthen the sleeves by 2 inches because I didn't want them to end up kind of that sort of bracelet length, because it just irritates me. It's either going to be a full length for me, or you know, a dedicated sort of 3/4 length sleeve. So I wanted a proper amount so that you would get this sort of billowing effect at the bottom. So that's worked really nicely. So I've done 2 inches on the sleeves. Probably could have got away with 1.5 inches again, the same amount that I did the bodice for, but I went for 2 inches. Now the other change that I made to the pattern was I was umming and ahhing about whether I wanted to do the sort of shorter version or the midi length version with the additional tier. And I'd sort of put out some comments on my last video about the fact that I was umming and ahhing about what to do, and because I didn't know whether I wanted to do a midi because it's not normally my favourite length. And then when I was sort of got to the point of cutting it out, I had sort of an epiphany type moment, because I find that gathering round my waist is not particularly a good look for me. I don't feel particularly comfortable with that. It kind of adds volume at a point where I don't want it to add volume. And so with the Lyra shirt dress, you gather it's just kind of a rectangle shape, and you gather that into the waist, and then if you're going to put the tier or another tier on, you gather it again. So I decided to go with putting the Lyra dress part of the skirt on to the Lyra dress rather than using the Lyra dress portions, because that skirt pattern kind of goes out like that. So from the waist it goes out at an angle, and I just thought that that would work better for me. So with the Lyra, you attach it to the bodice and then you put a little bit of elastic through just to kind of gather it in a little bit. So what I've done is I've attached it to the bodice, and that fitted perfectly because obviously their block is the same. And then so you add it kind of a 2 centimetre, then you overlock the edge, and then normally you would sew that down so that you can put your elastic through as a casing. So I've overlocked that edge because part of me was thinking, well, I probably will add the elastic. But when I got to that point, I decided that actually I rather liked it without the elastic in, and I just cinched it in with the belt. Now I have done the tie option as well, so that I've got that option, but actually I just prefer just to put it on a reasonably narrow belt, that sort of length, and you'll see it in some of the pictures, and I'll pop in a picture of me with the belt on and me with the belt made out of the same fabric as well, so you can see what I mean. As I say, I prefer the look with the belt. I think it just breaks it up a little bit, breaks up the busy print a little bit, and it defines my waist a little bit more, and I just think that that looks a little bit more flattering, and that is something that I will possibly take away into some of my other dresses that I have that I wear like a tie belt on, to see whether that would work well for me as well. So yeah, really pleased with how this came out. I used this is a very lightweight cotton poplin. It's sort of in between a poplin and a lawn, I guess, in terms of weight. So it's got a reasonable amount of drape, which is quite nice, but it was sort of a fairly inexpensive fabric, but I did like the design, and I like the navy background with the Dixie print, but I didn't want to go for a fabric that was really precious to me and it might not quite work out. But on the whole, I think it really has worked out. I definitely would make it again. I will perhaps look to make it again in the summer with the shorter sleeve as well. But yeah, on the whole, I'm really pleased. The collar stand went in really well. It's not completely perfect round here. This shape of this bit is not completely perfect, but I mean, I'm never planning to kind of wear it up like that. I don't think that's a great look for me. I think I need kind of the openness at the neck, so I'm never going to wear it sort of buttoned up. So I don't think that bit will be really noticeable. Oh, the only other thing that I did is I've added a couple of press studs. I've added one just here, so that I can sort of button it to here, but it's not sort of too cleavagey. And I've also added one just sort of in between this button and this button here, because there was a little bit of gaping, not because it's too tight round here, just because I didn't get this button placket, the button placement spot on, because obviously I had to lengthen the button placket because I've added length to the bodice, and therefore I couldn't go with the dedicated placement. I probably would put, if I was to do it again, another button in, but to be honest with you, the press studs work really well, and I can take this on and off without having to undo any of this now anyway. So yeah, great. I'm really pleased with this. I would definitely recommend the pattern. It came together really quite well. It wasn't I didn't find it a particularly difficult pattern. It's definitely not a beginner's pattern, but I think if you've got a few makes under your belt, and especially if you're making it in a stable cotton rather than like a viscose, I think that makes it easier. And I'm glad that I went with the cotton for my first sort of attempt of an actual collar stand. I've done like a do you call it a revere collar shirt before for my husband, but I've never done one with an actual stand. So yeah, really chuffed with how that came together. So this was make one. My second make was a pair of slippers, and that was using the Adam Sews pattern that he has created for a pair of slippers, and this is this pattern here. Now I'm not sure whether this is available on Adam's website yet, but if it is, I will link the pattern below, and if not, I will link to his website, and I'll try and find out from him if he will be issuing this if it isn't already on his website. Sure, sorry, I should have done that before. So yeah, I have made this pattern for myself because I was definitely in need of a new pair of slippers, and this is the finished result. So as the beady eyes amongst you will see that, oh look, they match. Yeah, so I've created some bias binding with some leftover fabric from this, which was quite useful, and I've still got a bit left that I could probably make some more bias binding. So, and on the back it's got some denim fabric because that's a little bit more hard wearing. You then sandwich the denim with a layer of sort of foam, like bag making foam, to give you some you know, some cushioning. I've then put 2 layers of wadding, this is all per the instructions, and then the top layer of fabric, and I've gone with a cord because again I thought it would be reasonably hard wearing. On the inside of the slipper itself, I've gone with the matching to the bias binding, which I just thought was a nice little touch. And then the top section, you sandwich your fabric with a layer of foam and then your fabric on top, and then you do your bias binding around the edge. So yeah, those have come together really nicely. I made those yesterday, so yeah, they come together within a few hours really, and a really nice pattern, really a nice sew, and as I say, come together sort of reasonably quickly, and will definitely be something that I'd be looking to sew up again when these ones, you know, slippers only last me a certain amount of time, but also as gifts in the future for other people as well, I think. So in the last week I've had one piece of fabric arrive. I bought a piece of fabric from a de-stash on a Facebook sort of group for stretch fabrics, they, you know, people that are wanting to de-stash, and I saw this particular fabric and I thought it would be really great for my older son, and it is this Among Us French terry fabric. Now last week I'd sewn up a hoodie for my younger son in some Spidey Friends fabric, and my older son obviously he liked it, but obviously Spidey Friends isn't his thing, but he does really like Among Us. So when I saw this, I thought that would be ideal, and I'd be able to sew him up a hoodie as well. Hopefully I've got enough because I haven't got quite as much for this, and obviously he is a little bit bigger than my younger son, but I think even if I haven't got enough of this, I would be able to do some colour blocking. So this is something that I probably won't sew up this week because I need to get some more cuffing fabric, some ribbing. I'll either do it in a red or this blue. I think maybe red. I was originally thinking blue, but I think it would be quite nice to pick out the red, because I think having the sort of royal blue background, if I don't get that spot on in terms of colour match, it might look a bit rubbish. So I think I'll go with red ribbing. So that's that's the one bit of fabric that has arrived in the post. Now in terms of plans for the week ahead or the next couple of weeks, I'd really like to make some progress on the coat that I've been talking about in my last couple of videos. Now this is the Jamelia coat, which is by the pattern company Sewing Patterns by Mason. I believe it's a relatively new pattern, and thank you to the lovely viewer, sorry I've completely forgotten your name, so I do apologise, who reached out to me to tell me that she had made the pattern. In fact, she made 2 versions and that she really enjoyed the pattern. So thank you so much to you for doing that. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I was talking about the fact that I wanted to sew up this pattern. I've cut it out now, all but I haven't cut out the bias binding. I need to make some bias binding or the pocket linings, which I'm hoping to do in the corresponding sort of fabric to the bias binding. And in my last video I talked about the two different options that I was thinking of for the bias binding, and thank you so much to everybody that voted for the two different fabrics and gave their opinion on it. So this is a bit of an offcut of the actual fabric, and then I've got these two different fabrics that I was talking about sewing up the bias binding in. Now this was, I said, was fabric A and this was B, and thank you so much to everybody that sort of took the time in the last couple of videos to say which one they preferred. Now I haven't totted up the votes. My hunch is that this one came slightly out on top, but this one got a lot of votes as well, so thank you to everybody that took the time. I really do appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to sewing that pattern up. I'm glad that I've managed to cut it out. I don't know about you, but cutting out fabric is one of my least favourite parts of the sewing process, and it's the bit that I tend to procrastinate on quite a lot. Not so much cutting out the paper pattern, but in terms of cutting out the fabric, yeah, I do tend to procrastinate a little bit on that stage because it's not my favourite thing to do. And I don't know, maybe I'm scared that I'm going to mess up the pattern or mess up the fabric and I'm not going to cut it out right. I don't really know. I've never had a major disaster, so I don't know why I'm so hesitant to do it. But yeah, it does sometimes stop me from sewing. So I'm glad that I managed to do that. I do often sort of batch cut things out just because then I've got sort of a lineup of projects, but I'd run out of things that I had got cut out, so it was time to cut that out. So I've managed to do that today, and so that means in the next sort of week or so I can make a start on that, so really looking forward to that too. The other thing that I am looking at making over the next week is with using this stripy cotton jersey, and that's for my older son. Now it's World Book Day coming up relatively soon in the next sort of couple of weeks. I think it's March the 2nd, and the idea is that you dress up as a character from a book, and however my son's school do dress up as a word. However, when I've had this fabric in my stash for a little while, my son and I were talking about the fact that it very much resembles Where's Wally or Where's Waldo if you were in the US, and I think his top is actually red and white stripes. However, this is red and grey, but I think it's a reasonably good take on it. So I'm just going to sew him up a t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt with this. He's got some blue trousers already, and I've got a hat that's coming and some glasses, so yeah, that will make a cute character of Where's Wally, but also he will be using the word search, so he'll have we've got a magnifying glass and he can take that, and yeah, I think that will also be a great addition to his wardrobe afterwards. I don't think it will be too Where's Wally like that he won't be able to wear it other times. Now if I have got any of this fabric left, I will try and sew up something for my younger son as well, so that I don't end up with sort of too much scrap fabric left over. So those are my plans for the next week or so. As I say, I'm really looking forward to making good headway on the coat, and obviously I need to crack on with that t-shirt as well, because otherwise I will run out of time. But I've still got a little bit of time. I'm not leaving it too last minute, which is quite good going for me. Not sewing it up the night before, well, fingers crossed anyway, and hopefully it will sew up quite nicely. Do let me know if you're sewing up any costumes for your children or grandchildren, or your nieces or nephews or whoever, or yourself. Maybe you're taking part in World Book Day. I know there's quite a few teachers that are sewists as well, so no doubt you're taking part as well. So let me know in the comments below if you are busy sewing up costumes, or you have got plans to sew up costumes as well, and any ideas that you've got, perhaps I might be able to steal them for future years. So I think I will round up here today. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, I'd really love it if you would consider doing so. I really do appreciate, as I said at the beginning, that everybody who does take the time to watch my videos, who likes and subscribes and comments. It really is brilliant. I can't believe that there's so many people that are watching me. I know I haven't got the biggest YouTube channel in the world, but yeah, my little tiny portion of the internet, I really do appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch and like, comment and subscribe, so thank you. So as I say, I will say goodbye now. I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope you come back next week and you manage to fit in some sewing during that time. But until next time, take care. Happy sewing. Bye bye.